He lied to Clara that he wasn't married, but on their wedding day, the truth walked in. What happened next shook the entire village.
The wind in Maplewood carried the smell of dust and palm wine that evening, the kind of wind that whispered rumors before people even spoke them. The bus that pulled up by the old market road groaned like an old secret being forced open. When the door slid aside, Zach stepped down. He looked different. Broader shoulders, trimmed beard, wristwatch glinting like pride itself. He adjusted his dark sunglasses as if to block out familiarity. His gaze was fixed ahead, towards the compound at the far end of the road, Mara's compound. She had been sweeping the yard, humming softly, the same song she used to sing while he packed his bag years ago. Her broom stopped mid-air when she saw him. For a long second, she didn't breathe. Zach? The name escaped her lips like a memory trying to find its way home. He froze, the voice he'd been avoiding in his head, now real and trembling. Slowly he turned. "Mara," he said. Lower, rougher than she remembered. She stared. The city had reshaped him. His once kind eyes now carried a distant sharpness. His hands, once calloused from the village walk, now looked like they hadn't touched sweat in years. "You came back," she said quietly. "I did, but not to stay long." Her heart clenched. "Not to stay?" Before he could explain, another voice drifted from the bus. "Zach, are you just going to leave my bag there?" The words sliced through the moment. Mara turned and her face changed. A woman stepped down gracefully, her heels crunching the red dust like it was beneath her. She smiled politely at Mara. "Good evening." Mara's broom dropped from her hand. "Who is she?" Zach hesitated. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "Mara, this is Clara." The name hit like thunder. Mara's lips trembled. "Clara?" Clara extended a small wave, unaware of the storm she had walked into. She said softly, "We came from Lagos together for a family introduction." The air shifted. Mara blinked, trying to steady her voice. "Introduction? You mean?" Zach cut in quietly. "We're getting married this weekend." The world tilted. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. She laughed, a soft, broken laugh that carried more ache than anger. "Married." Zach stepped forward. "Mara, I never meant for..." "Don't," she whispered, raising her hand. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. "You left with promises, Zach. You said you'd return for me, not with someone else." He swallowed hard, guilt tightening around his throat. "I thought things change. Life..." "No, Zach, you changed." For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the wind slapping the tin roofs and a faraway goat bleating like it was morning too. Then from behind the fence, Mama Ifeoma's raspy voice floated out. "So the boy finally returned, but he didn't bring yams. He brought confusion." The neighbors began peeking out, whispering, "Is that not Mara's husband? He came back with another woman, oh. Lagos has swallowed him whole." Zach shifted uncomfortably, wishing the ground would swallow him instead. Mara took a slow step backward. Her voice was steady now, too steady. "Congratulations," she said softly. "May your new home have everything our love couldn't." Clara tried to speak. "Mara, please, Mara cut her off. "You don't need to explain. A woman doesn't fight for what walked away willingly." She turned and disappeared into her hut before her face could betray her heart. Zach stood rooted, staring at the closed door, unsure if he should knock, leave, or run. Clara touched his arm lightly. "Zach, maybe we should go." He nodded, but his eyes lingered on that door, the door that once opened to laughter, now shut with silence. As they walked away, Mama Ifeoma shook her head and whispered to the air, "When a man forgets his home, even his shadow won't recognize him." And somewhere deep inside the house, Mara finally let the tears fall. Not because he had come back with another woman, but because part of her had known he might. By sunrise, everyone already knew Zach had returned, and he came with a woman who wore perfume louder than her manners. Mara woke to faint voices outside her compound. Two market women stood near the fence, pretending to admire the hibiscus flowers, but really whispering. I told you, Lagos will wash a man's memory clean. Eh? But to bring her here, the same house his wife built with him, God forbid. Mara ignored them. She had learned to wear silence like armor. She tied her wrapper, stepped outside, and began sweeping the yard with slow, careful strokes, the kind that hid shaking hands. But every sweep stirred up more than dust. It stirred memories. Each sound of the broom reminded her of the morning he left, how he had kissed her forehead, promising, "I'll return for you." Now, that same road had brought him back for another woman. From across the path, Mama Ifoma shuffled over, her scarf half tied and her eyes sharp with knowing. "My daughter," she said, leaning on her walking stick, "the village is talking again, but don't let their words become your prison. Hold your head high. The truth walks slowly, but it never loses its way." Mara gave a faint smile. "Mama, sometimes the truth arrives when it's too late." Mama Ifoma's eyes twinkled sadly. "Not this time." Meanwhile, at the community square, men were setting up chairs and sweeping the ground. Drummers tested their talking drums, while a group of women arranged bottles of palm wine. A large banner flapped above the stage. Traditional introduction of Zach and Clara. Zach stood nearby, giving instructions with forced confidence. Clara hovered beside him, her smile tight, her phone glued to her hand. "You're quiet," she said. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," he lied. "Just making sure things go right." He turned away before she could read the worry behind his eyes. The truth was, nothing felt right. The village no longer looked the same. Or maybe he didn't. Every corner reminded him of Mara. Then came Obinna, the postman. His uniform was faded, but his steps were sure. He carried an old canvas bag slung across his chest, the same one he'd used for years. "Ah, Zach," he called, his tone uncertain. "Long time, my brother." Zach forced a grin. "Obinna, you're still at it, eh?" "Still at it, but I have something for you. Been holding on to it too long." He reached into his bag and pulled out a bundle of old yellowed envelopes tied with twine. Each bore the same neat handwriting. Zach froze. "Mara, they kept coming," Obinna said, softly. "Even when you stopped writing back. I didn't know where to send them after you changed the address, so I kept them." Zach took the bundle, his hand trembling slightly. The paper was worn from waiting, like love that refused to die. "She wrote all these?" he asked. Obinna nodded. "Every month, for 2 years, even when people said you were not coming back." Zach swallowed, guilt thick in his throat. He loosened the twine and glanced at the first letter. The words blurred as his eyes burned. "Zach, I still light the lamp every evening. I hope it helps you find your way back home." He closed his eyes, but her voice wouldn't leave. The city noise, the money, the women, all of it vanished beneath the weight of those letters. A silence passed between them, heavy and long. Then Zach sighed. "Maybe it's better this way." But Obinna didn't answer. He just looked at him, the kind of look that said, "Better for who?"
But among the crowd, whispers slithered. "Is it not the same man who left his wife here? Ah, so soon he forgot her." "No, my dear, not soon, completely." The air grew thick with judgment, even beneath the chair. At the far edge of the compound, half hidden behind the crowd, Mara stood quietly, her wrapper plain, her hair covered with a scarf. She had come not to watch, but to face her ending, to see the man she once loved promise forever to someone else. Mama Ifoma had begged her not to come. "Some wounds don't need witnesses," she'd said. But Mara's heart replied, "I already witnessed it, the day he forgot me." So she came, silent, steady, waiting for closure. The ceremony began. The drums sang praises of the groom and bride. Clara's parents sat proud. Zach's relatives smiled wide, pretending not to see the tension in his eyes. The elders called for the ritual of wine presentation, the moment when the bride kneels to offer palm wine to her chosen husband. Clara took the cup gracefully, knelt, and began searching for the crowd for Zach, as tradition demanded. But just as she took her first step, a voice rose from behind the drummers. "Hold it!" The drums stopped. Heads turned, murmurs rippled through the crowd. It was Obinna, the postman. He walked forward slowly, carrying a small brown envelope in his hand. His face was grave, his uniform soaked in sweat. He said, Forgive me, elders, but something here belongs to truth. The chief frowned. Obina, what are you doing? This is a wedding. Yes, Obina said calmly. And no, marriage should not begin with lies buried beneath it. He turned to Zach, then to Mara, who stood motionless near the fence. From his bag, he pulled out one of the letters. Yellowed, fragile, trembling like memory. These are the letters Mara wrote you, Zach. 52 of them. You never answered, but one was returned. The one you wrote back. A low murmur swept through the crowd. Clara's eyes darted between them. What's going on? Obina opened the letter and read aloud, his voice cutting through the silence. Mara, I'm sorry. The city is changing me, but I can't stop thinking about you. Sometimes when I laugh, it feels fake. Maybe one day, when I've built enough to be proud of, I'll come home, not to start over, but to ask for forgiveness. Gasps echoed around the crowd. Mara's hand flew to her mouth. She remembered that letter. She had never received it. Zach's face drained of color. Obina, where did you? He said. It came back to the post office months ago. Wrong address, but truth has its own timing. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. The bride's mother stood, alarmed. What is this nonsense? But Clara was staring at Zach, eyes wide with betrayal. You told me you were never married. Clara, you said she left you. Zach tried to reach for her, but she stepped back sharply, tears of humiliation glistening. You lied to me, to all of us. She dropped the wine cup. It shattered on the ground like thunder. The drums started again, not in rhythm, but in panic. Zach turned towards Mara, whose eyes were full but calm. Mara, I didn't mean for this. Don't explain, she whispered. Some truths are better shown than said. Clara ran off into the crowd. The elders called for calm, but the guests were already dispersing. The wedding that was supposed to unite two families ended before the palm wine even touched his lips. Zach stood alone under the canopy, his white agbada stained with red dust and spilled wine, a perfect picture of purity ruined. In the distance, thunder rolled. The sky began to darken, as if heaven itself couldn't bear to watch. Mara turned to leave. But before she walked away, she said quietly, so only he could hear, the city gave you everything, Zach, but it took the one thing that made you human. Then she walked into the rain, her steps slow, but her heart lighter than it had been in years.
The rain did not stop that night. It fell hard and long, as if heaven itself was scrubbing the dust and deceit off the earth. The canopy had collapsed, chairs floated in puddles, and the banner, Love Finds Its Way Home, now lay half buried in mold. Zach sat alone under the veranda of the guest house, drenched and motionless. His once immaculate agbada clung to him, stained with dust and regret. He watched the last candle flicker on the table before dying out. The shadows moved closer, like guilt finding its seat beside him. From inside the house, the sound of Clara's suitcase zipping broke the silence. She came out without looking at him. Her face was swollen from crying, her hair tie gone, her once perfect makeup streaked with rain and heartbreak. Clara, wait, he said, standing slowly. Please, I didn't mean to hurt you. She stopped just long enough to look him in the eye. You didn't hurt me, Zach. You hurt yourself. And now I know what kind of man Lagos turned you into. Her voice broke. The worst kind, one who can't tell love from convenience. Then she walked out into the rain, dragging her suitcase through the mud. Without once looking back, Zach watched her go until her figure disappeared between the trees. Then he sat back down, the sound of rain filling the hollow space where his pride used to be. By morning, the village had returned to its usual rhythm. Slow, cautious, whispering. But now, when people mention Zach, their voices carried both pity and satisfaction. That's what happens when you forget home. He left love to chase shadow. At least truth came before the feast finished. Zach didn't argue. He didn't leave either. He moved into an empty room at the edge of the compound, the same house where Mara once kept flowers by the window. He began spending his days fixing small things around the village, replacing broken roof sheets, helping the children fetch water, giving coins to old men at the bar. No one told him to. He just needed to do something. But every night, when the moon rose, he found himself looking toward Mara's hut. He never knocked. He didn't dare. Some nights he could hear her singing softly, not for him, but for herself. A new song, one that didn't carry his name. One afternoon, as he walked through the market, Mama Ifeoma stopped him. "Zach," she said, her tone sharp but kind. "You've been walking around like a ghost." He nodded. "Maybe that's what I am, Mama." "No," she replied. "Ghosts don't fix wells. Ghosts don't stay to clean the mess they made." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm trying to learn how to live again." Mama Ifeoma's eyes softened. "Then start by telling the truth. Not to others, but to yourself." He nodded. "I already have, Mama. I was a fool. I thought success was louder than love." She sighed deeply. "Good. Then maybe your heart still has a little room left for forgiveness."
Days turned into weeks. The wedding debris was cleared. The village slowly forgot the scandal. But Zach didn't forget. He couldn't. He often saw Mara by the riverbank, washing clothes quietly, the same way she had when he left years ago. Sometimes their eyes met across the water. She didn't look away anymore. She didn't smile either, but in her stillness there was something gentler, something that didn't hit him. One evening, he finally gathered the courage to cross the river. She looked up as he approached. "Mara," he said softly. "Zach," she replied, her tone calm, almost distant. He looked down at the water, then at her. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to tell you I'm sorry. Not for the wedding, not for the lies, but for making you believe I'd come back as the same man." She rinsed the last shirt, wrung it gently, and hung it on a rope. "The city didn't change you, Zach. It only revealed who you already were." He flinched, but nodded. "You are right." She turned to leave, then paused. "Still," she said softly, "you came back. That means something." Then she walked away, leaving him by the river, standing, half forgiven, half forgotten, fully human.
The dawn that followed was gentler than any Zach had seen in years. The Harmattan breeze carried no gossip, no judgment, only peace. Birds sang over the mango trees again, the same ones that once shaded his promises. The road that led out of Maplewood looked softer now, no longer calling his name. He was sweeping the front of the well when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. It was Mara. She looked radiant in simplicity, her wrapper faded but clean, her eyes calm, her presence still. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Two people who had once shared everything, now bound by quiet understanding. "You fixed the well," she said softly. "Yes," he replied. "It was leaking." "Good," she nodded. "Things that leak can still be repaired if someone cares enough." He smiled faintly. "You always did speak in lessons." She shrugged lightly. "Pain teaches fast." They stood in silence. The morning light fell across both of them, golden and forgiving. "Clara," Mara asked suddenly. "She left," Zach said quietly. "Back to Lagos." She turned to go, and Zach found his voice again. "Mara, thank you." She paused. "For what?" "For waiting once and for finally stopping. Goodbye, Zach." He watched her walk away, her silhouette glowing against the rising sun, steady, dignified, free.
If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story that heals, teaches, and inspires. Thanks for watching.